Let's go. Hello. Welcome to Develop Brighton. We've got a whoop already. It's exciting stuff. Is everyone full of caffeine? I am. So this may be shaky and frenzied, but it's going to be good. This session is called Leading New Frontiers in Mobile. And two of the people leading New Frontiers are right here with us. I'll introduce you now. Charmie Kim, you have a glittering 15-year career in mobile games, starting at Gree, taking in a time at Microsoft, and now, and most recently, Space 8, where you worked on Samurai Siege and launched BeatStar. Space 8 is now Supercell London, working on thrilling new games. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. Okay, good. Felicity Gracie-Herst of Trailmix, another glittering career in mobile, 17 years of experience across product, production, and engineering. Felicity has also developed pre-release hardware, VR, AR devices at Microsoft and NDreams, and has also driven growth on games including Farm Heroes Saga at King, now running Love and Pies and at Trailmix, and is general manager at the London-based studio. I'm Neil. I'm just some guy, really.
You're also glittering.
Well, you know, I run a mobile games industry website called mobilegamer.biz, which launched 3.5 years ago, and it's basically just me. Without further ado, can you tell us, Charmie, what you're working on right now at Supercell without breaking any confidentiality agreements?
Of course, that was going to be your first question, Neil. At Supercell, I'm leading a new game title, not announced as of yet. It is part of the Spark umbrella of projects. If people know about Spark, it is the kind of the incubation arm of Supercell now, which houses several projects, several teams, very team-oriented. And it is, what I can say is it is at the forefront of innovation, because that's what we're here to talk about. But also we are targeting an audience that is not typically a Supercell audience, so very fresh and new in that sense as well.
Right. And Felicity, your work is a little bit more out there in public. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to talk about what I'm doing, because I joined Trailmix just toward the end of last year, so pretty new in role to run our flagship merge title, Love and Pies. If anyone hasn't played it, it's a cozy, melodramatic, narrative-driven merge game. Please download now. So I've been in role for the last 6 months, basically. Love and Pies is almost 4 years old. I should say, I think at that age, it's considered a legacy title. So what I've been focused on since joining the team, adding a lot of new live ops features to catch up with the current state of the market, what players expect, genre table stakes features like generative boost, while also kind of rebuilding the foundations of the game. We've done a big revamp recently to our game economy to set up for future growth and innovation.
Great, thank you. Charmie, let's switch back to you to talk not specifically about what you're working on, but around what you're working on. Supercell sort of famously doesn't launch that many games, but we've seen a couple launch recently in sort of unconventional ways. Squad Busters with relatively short soft launch, Moko with an invite-only launch. Is the company now in a slightly more sort of experimental era when it comes to launching new games?
Yeah, I would say so, and I would say that our bar is still extremely high at Supercell in terms of the success we look to achieve and the bar that we want our games to achieve. But I think we have been more experimental in how we get there. So Squad, for example, being a game with multiple Supercell IPs, the approach that they've tried is a big brand marketing type launch. And I think Moko now is trying something quite different, maybe quite opposite even. The approach is launch it and kind of grow it as they go in launch, which is kind of the opposite approach if you think about it. So, and I think we will continue to see that kind of experimentation as we launch games and see how we distribute games in the future as well.
Launch and learn is a thing I've heard a couple of people say, particularly at King. Felicity, you're very much sort of, that's kind of your whole deal on Love and Pies,
sure.
Learning about what players are doing in the game. How has that game changed over time, and how do you go about collecting and sort of processing that player feedback?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. It is, launch and learn is so true. I think once you're already launched, though, it is just iterate, and Love and Pies has changed a lot. I think we're famous for the pivot at Trailmix. I don't know if, maybe people know this story of how the game's core was actually, rebuilt and pivoted from, I think, it was like a match core and then pivoted to a merge core in like 6 weeks, and then soft launched a couple months, and came out of soft launch very shortly thereafterwards. So it's something that we definitely have form for at Trailmix, is responding to what we see in the data. We are pretty obsessed with our players. I will say we use pretty much every form of insights we can find, qualitative and quantitative. So, all the data analytics you'd expect because it's mobile, but in addition, like doing tons and tons of player research. We do, surveys, but we also work with agencies to do like deep motivation based and persona research on our players. And actually our player experience team have quite a sophisticated tool set with automation, AI, to analyze player sentiment and, from both customer support and socials in our community. I think sometimes the best methods are the old school ones, just talking to people and listening to players. And so we also have an initiative underway where we're setting up a new official Discord channel to get in touch with some of our most loyal fans and ambassadors. So yeah, keep an eye out for that coming soon.
Great. And the first mention of AI for the day. So
keeping tally.
Yeah, mark that off on your bingo card. There is an AI question coming, of course, later on. Charmie, you mentioned your AI Labs and Spark program when it comes to sort of generating new game ideas. What can you tell us about how those new processes have sort of fed into how you approach spinning up new games?
Yeah, it's a timely question actually, because our team recently did a collaboration with the AI Lab team, which was super exciting. The team was Star Wars, and basically that team took our code base and turned 2 of our NPCs into AI-generated NPCs. And they took the personality of the NPCs and fed it a lot of our game data and the game player data, and had them generate the dialogue. And it was an amazing collaboration. It really showed me a good way to partner with a second team to kind of contain exploration in that way, because I think when you're a new game team, and we are still quite a small new game team, it's 14 people on the team at the moment, and when you're focused on the core loop and the core driver of the game, because it's not AI at the core, just to be clear, Supercell's next game is not going to be an AI game necessarily, just want to clarify. But the AI exploration we've done was a great way to do the R&D. And on the back of that, we learned if we were to take that further, which at the moment we've paused it and we're not going to take it further yet because, again, we have to focus on our core loop first. But if we come back to it and take that further, we felt that we had a lot of learnings to kind of how to approach it next time. For example, one of the things we learned was the real-time generation of the dialogue from the NPCs wasn't that useful to us. In fact, it was going to be too risky for us. Maybe it will generate a bit of dialogue that was too out there or not secure. We have younger players that we would have to think about as well. So those risks were not worth the real-time generation. So what we think we will do, if we come back to it, is feed the game data kind of like overnight, have it generate the dialogue, and then that can go through probably another AI, checking it for security, checking it for bad language, context, things like that, and then bring it back to the game. Yeah. So those kind of collaborations are happening. AI Lab is very new, but it is already starting to happen. And AI Lab being run by Otto and Spark being run by Stefan, I know they're having a lot of conversations already. We might even sit in the same building in Helsinki to kind of encourage that collaboration. So yeah, those are all things happening as we speak. Well, not right now because they're all on holiday, but when they're back from their cabins.
Yeah. I got a great, just while we're talking about being on holiday, my favorite out of office of this summer so far, I think I mentioned it to you guys, the boss of Trailmix said in her out of office, "This email will not be read or responded to." I think that is a quality example for everyone to follow.
Yeah, enjoy your sabbatical, Carol.
Yeah. Respect to you. Felicity, let's talk about sort of, while we're talking about being on the cutting edge of sort of new processes, how do you track what your sort of competitors are doing in the Merge 2 space and adapt and integrate those new features and new ways of engaging players into Love and Pies?
Great question. I mean, I would say everyone on our team plays all of our competitor games. I think you've got to in this space. You can't be complacent. Mobile and casual particularly changes so much. I think we're Merge fans as well, so we're playing not just Merge games but other games. Love and Pies, I guess we're pretty unique now in that we were one of the early movers in Merge. I think and there have been a lot of big titles that have come in, heavy hitters to sort of lead and redefine the category, which is great because we can keep our eyes on what they're doing, learning at scale, but also looking at some of the smaller, new, innovative games. I think our team for a while was playing things like Hello Town and just having fun, obsessing over these little games and learning from them as well. We obviously aren't at the scale to mimic or fast follow, and I don't think we have an interest in doing that either, like what our competitors are doing with regards to their live ops calendars. So we have to be a little bit, we have to prioritize for impact, right, with the scale of the team that we are, which means that we want to do what is most valuable, but we also want to do what we think our players will resonate with most, and that hits our kind of Love of Pies and Trailmix DNA. So yeah, we have a process for that. We do use ICE scoring, like impact, confidence, and effort scoring, because I come from a production background, so I'm always going to talk about process. But to me, that is a key part of it. But then putting the creative lens on it so that it's something that fits within our game world and has that that kernel of something that makes it emotionally resonant and heartfelt, which is key to our audience and to our game.
And making games today is sort of a balance of tried and true process and doing what works and improving what works, but also taking a few risks. Charmie, what can you tell us about Ilka in particular, the big boss of Supercell, has called for more experimentation and risk in mobile after sort of a few years. It's been a difficult market. Maybe people have been pulling back from launching new games. Not the case at Supercell. How has sort of Ilka's call for innovation and more risk affected your thinking in terms of spinning up new games?
Ilka's always been very, very focused on innovation and Supercell as a whole is a reflection of that, and that's always been kind of there for me as well throughout my career. Even when I was at Space Ape, I personally looked up to Supercell games, and Supercell games have been my North Star, quite honestly, especially on BeatStar, because BeatStar, we had a good relationship with Supercell already at that point, and Ilka was one of our fans, ultimately. So that's always been there. So in that sense, I think nothing's changed. But I think for me, my sense of what I take away from that is when we call upon that for the whole industry, I think the way to get there is to kind of celebrate the innovation that does happen in our industry already. I think we often don't give our own industry the attention and love and praise that it deserves. Like games like Homescapes, games like Whiteout Survival are hugely innovative in their own way. And the more that we pay attention and to that craft of innovation, and the more we talk about it and the more we study each other, I think is probably the right way to go for kind of building on it and having innovation that is attuned to the mobile space in the best way. So yeah, that's my personal take on Ilka's call for innovation.
Yeah, I'm important to note there, while you mentioned Ilka was a fan of Space Ape, so much of a fan he bought the company.
Yeah, well,
so,
yes, that's exactly what happened.
Also
Love and Pies, like innovative work done by Love and Pies,
We are
always.
also a Supercell investee.
Always.
Yeah,
always.
so big fans from Finland here. Felicity, similarly, you have this existing player base that you've got to keep happy, but also sort of keep showing new things and keep them engaged. How do you balance sort of not upsetting that core while offering them new things to do and sort of slightly different ways to play Love and Pies?
Yeah, no, great question, because I think this is something I'm passionate about. I do love a framework, so I think proven, better, new is something that we talk about a lot internally. I think if anyone's not familiar with this framework, I think some people will tell you, that there is a golden ratio of like 70, 20, 10, proven, better, new. I don't believe that. And I think, as Charmie calls out, like there's a lot of innovation happening in the industry. And I think in different phases of games, you may go through a different ratio of that split. Especially in new games, there may be, a bit more of the new. Where I think, live games, particularly where you have an established audience and you've proven product market fit and you've got a player base that already love your game, you can still find a lot of innovation in that better space where you may be bringing features from, that are proven in a different genre or like slightly improving upon. And I think, some of the competitors you called out are actually, great examples of this. That's where we push the boundaries. So on Love and Pies, we definitely are, releasing a lot of new content. We're a live game. We have new game days. We have, seasons and decoration events going out all the time. But we're also, developing new features, new live ups, and constantly testing that to get that balance just right.
And let's talk about player expectations for a little while. I think there's a lot of chat in the media in general about what Gen Z wants, dividing people into generations and subcategories of people, which feels sort of very mobile. Charmie, what do you think mobile players demand in 2025 that's different to what they were sort of expecting back when you were working on Samurai Siege or even BeatStar?
From what I observed, because we've done actually a lot of research studying these Gen Zs, and maybe these Gen Zs.
These pesky kids.
We've done quite a bit of that before we kind of decided on the game that we're making now. What I've observed and what struck me the most is that I think the mobile audience is increasingly more gamer-y. I think in the beginning of mobile, or even before that, when I was working on Facebook games, that audience was very much the opposite. Often you might encounter an audience that played solitaire on Windows 95, and then this has been their first game since, that kind of audience. I don't think that audience is really there anymore, and I think the newer generation of mobile gamers have grown up playing probably console games, are far more likely to be playing a console game as well as mobile games. A lot more of that going on, much more savvy. But what I would stress, though, is the most direct thing to conclude there would be, let's just put those experiences on mobile, because that's what they're used to. But I think it's quite the opposite. I think because of the maturity of these gaming industries and the platforms, mobile almost needs to be more mobile. It needs to fit their life in a way that other devices cannot fit. And what mobile does best is the low barrier to entry. You always have it with you. You can pick it up and play while we wait. I wasn't playing while we wait for this session, but because I was too nervous. But I could have been, and you could play in the bathroom. You could play during breaks, and while you're waiting for something else to happen, you could play in bed. They play in bed a lot. First thing when they wake up, last thing before going to sleep. And only mobile can do that. So what I see is more and more games that fit that lifestyle in the best way and give them that sense of achievement or fun or excitement in the smallest doses. I think those games are already doing the best, and those games will continue to do the best.
Yeah. And Felicity, with a live game, is it meeting player expectations? Is it more kind of just constantly feeding them content that they can hoover up? And how do you sort of keep them excited and engaged?
Yeah, I mean, you have to sort of stay with the market. I think, there are expectations now that players have, and I think, Charmie called it, that I think the player expectations have changed, the market has matured a bit, and there are some, really fantastic games out there with, that are just so much more polished than...
I think we're getting a new microphone, sorry.
Hey,
sorry,
sorry about that. If I'm cutting out, I think it might be. There we go. Yeah, so much more polished than they ever were, honestly. I'm going to turn this one off so you don't get feedback. There you go. But, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, keeping up with player demand on a live game was the question.
Yeah, well, I think you have the benefit of having the audience there on the live game is that you can iterate and work with them, but we also see how fast features now propagate across games, and because there is this expectation, players who are playing some of the huge category leaders, and how quickly a new live op event or a new booster in casual will just spread across every game because it's what the audience demands and it's what they want. But I think that has also, as everyone who works in mobile is aware, it has increased the barrier to entry for new games. I know, with install shrinking, it feels like and just games with such mature live ops and constant streams of content, retaining players for so long, there is no need to switch games or run out of energy and go play your second or third game the way there used to be, because you can just stay in your main game, like you said, in the morning, when you wake up, at night, before you go to bed, do your daily tasks. There's just, and you can almost not exhaust that stream of content. So engagement is the battleground now, I think, more than it ever was, and you have to be, very, very actively pursuing that to keep up with player expectations.
Yeah, we started calling them destinations. It's it's beyond a game now. It's a destination. You put games inside the game because it's a platform for other games, and that is becoming more and more the norm. Yeah.
Great. I've got a couple more questions to cover, and then we'll do Q&A from the audience. Let's do Supercell's sort of famous, infamous killing of projects. Charmie, how has that changed, and what has Space Ape brought to... Space Ape is now Supercell London. how has that sort of move from being Space Ape to Supercell London, how has that affected your internal processes in terms of how you look at launching new games and whether to kill them and whether to proceed?
Yeah, I mean, that threat of a kill always looms upon us, new games, at all times. But it's always self-inflicted. It's a pressure that we put on ourselves. Space Ape had a similar culture around kills, actually. So from that sense, it carried over quite well. But I think if I had to point to something that I feel like our team is now doing as part of Spark and maybe kind of pushing Spark, helping push Spark in a direction is testing earlier, getting data or validation earlier. We're very much, we believe in that. We've done a lot of that at Space Ape. We've done alpha launches, public beta launches a lot earlier. So that's the kind of thing that we are hoping to do as part of Spark. And I think naturally that will help shape new games as we go forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Felicity, how has, you've got 4 years worth of Love and Pies sort of player data. How has that fed into how Trailmix approaches launching new games, and what can you tell us about what you might have coming up?
Well, yes, Trailmix is making new games. I cannot announce anything today, but absolutely everything that we've learned through the process of developing and operating Love and Pies is feeding into the new games that we're creating across our London and Berlin sites. I think one of the biggest learnings is around community and audience. I know distribution is harder now than it ever has been, and it is a lot tougher to, I think, get seen and to find an audience. I think we really benefited from that on Love and Pies. We have a great player base and a great community, but it wasn't designed with that in mind, whereas our new games are definitely designed with distribution in mind, the systems for finding the right players and keeping and that feedback loop strong to find our audience and then learn from that audience. So keeping that cycle really tight, really informing every single detail of the new game design with the interest group and the research on these players and their motivations and where they are is like a key part of our new game approach.
Great. And I'm sure we will announce those games on mobilegamer.biz at some point. Good plug for the website. Let's finish on AI. We left it right till the end. I find a lot of the talk around AI quite vague. I personally use transcription software, a thing called Descript to edit a podcast. I'm not sure if that actually counts as AI, but it's cool software, modern feeling software. Are there specific tools or processes that you guys use in your game production that you could recommend to the crowd here? Specifics would be great if possible, because, like I say, I find a lot of AI chat kind of a little bit woolly.
Yeah, so in the last 2-3 weeks, Cursor AI seems to have completely transformed the way our programmers are working.
Okay. That's a coding tool?
So it sits on top of, it's a coding tool. I wish I had one of our programmers up here with me. So like before, I think they used to ask ChatGPT, hey, how would you code this? And then you would paste it over. Mm-hmm. Now they just tell Cursor AI, hey, I want something that works like this. And then it'll just already have code kind of written for you. I don't know. Cool. Can anybody help me out here? I think there's a guy over there that can. Please tell us in the Q&A.
Questions in a minute.
Session.
I was going to say I can add on Cursor.
Oh please.
I've heard that it is really powerful, particularly for like greenfield projects, like and new games. I think in particular, less so on legacy code bases. So I hear it gets less use on
that's
projects
good
like
to
ours.
hear.
But
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, what I'm hearing is like you still have to know how it works to know whether it's good or not, the code that it suggests. But yeah, it has been game changing for our programmers. And again, this is very hot and new, and like I've only been hearing this in the last few weeks. And then we have, for legacy code, it seems it's been useful to have like legacy Supercellian code. We have like AI bots now to help decipher that code and ask questions to it.
Like
so
detective work.
That's the other way of using AI.
Okay.
But I think that is our own kind of bot. So I don't think there's like a tool I can name for that. But
But yeah, I think we're doing a lot of that similar thing. I think AI, it gets used so much as a buzzword now for like a lot of different technologies under that umbrella, some of which are, things that we've been doing for years with ML, like segmentation. I guess Gen AI and LLMs all under that banner. I think, though, in terms of tools, you can get really far with just the new bunch of LLMs, whether you're in the ChatGPT or the Gemini space. We use a lot of, custom GPTs or gems that we build for productivity purposes, right? And I think that's a great example, one where you can feed your code base in and use natural language to ask questions. You can do the same with your analytics stack. You could do the same with, and also just, a lot of those real productivity use cases like summarizing meetings and, accelerating notes. I think, so we call it kind of all under the umbrella of new technology rather than just purely AI, really just to, outsource some of those manual tasks to let us spend more time on the delightful stuff.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. That's AI almost covered, maybe. Let's do questions, shall we? Does anyone have questions for the esteemed panel here? I think maybe we have the one microphone here. You'll have to... this chap here. So cursor.ai, everyone buy shares in that? Is that the thing?
Hi guys, is this working okay?
Late.
Might be too late.
Thank you for the talk, guys. Felicity, this is mainly a question for you. So you talked about working on a mature product and then talked about launching new products. So from a LiveOps perspective, what learnings would you take from the mature product and then put that into a new product? And what kind of cornerstones and foundations would you really build on first? And how would that inform your strategy for launching a new game with LiveOps in it?
Question. Can you hear me if I use this one? Can you hear me?
Can everyone?
Can you hear me?
Do we need to run? We need another mic. Sorry.
No, thanks for the question. It is a great question. I think it's a challenge, right? Because sometimes with a new game, you need to prove things out first, and you don't want to spend all this time building things to scale if you need to validate them first. But I think that the big key is to build in order to operate. So you need to be thinking with that in mind of how a system could become operable. Like some of the tools and at Trailmix we're building, it's more of the learnings rather than it is the technology that we're sharing between our games. But I think LiveOps is a mindset, right? And I think it's very different from those of us who've been around the block and have come from console or more old school game making, where you think about launch and then you think about post-release content that is done. New games now, I do think very much, and I'm interested in your take on this too, because you're building an environment and a system rather than a one-off, and so you have to think not just in terms of how your team is going to run it, but how you're going to keep that content fresh, and so also the pipeline for that, the content furnace, as it were. Yeah,
I could add to that actually, because having launched and was part of live operating BeatStar and now working on a new game, I do feel that there was so much I learned launching the game that I am not now taking into the new game. And the biggest thing I think to consider are things that are going to be really difficult to change down the line. So if you think your main piece of content, and content is key. Content, in a live game, content is king. How often and to what quality and how much you can deliver the content is key. So if you have a key piece of content that you think your game is delivering that provides the most value, therefore is going to be probably what is monetized. If you have that, you have to be prepared to be pumping those things out. And something that I think we've done, our artists are very, very savvy about this, is because we have characters in our game that is going to be a big part of the content. They've made sure from the beginning that this content was going to be easy to generate and easy to create and work around, because once that is set, that is like nearly impossible to go back and change. So the things that are hard to change but are very important are probably the things you want to focus on.
Cool. I think it may be easiest if you have a question just to project rather than us going back and forth with the mic. But,
We could repeat the question as well.
Yeah? Do you think you can project or?
I'll try. It's a bit following on what you were saying with content and characters. I wanted to ask something about narrative. So, you know, big changes some years now was like Lily's Garden having like some different, much more, let's say, poignant content for people. Do you feel like there's a lot of interest in that narrative space, or do you also see that move a little bit to the AI side of content being pumped out based on spaces that are already there?
Yeah, I can speak to this because Live on Pies is a narrative game, and you know, we've done a lot of audience research as well, and like actually carved up our audience personas. We know that we have a percentage of our players who are very narrative driven. I think I identify as one myself. Like I play a lot of narrative games, but it's not the majority of our player base. Like we do have a lot of players who are there for the core merge gameplay, and they skip all the story. That doesn't mean that our we call them druids, actually, that is our narrative focused persona type, are less important to us, right? And I think you have to serve all these different audience needs and motivations. One thing I will say though is I know that Gen AI, particularly on text, is a use case that many is kind of well established. But for us, I think it was never a question that we would scale our narrative content with AI. I think the kernel of something heartfelt and human is really important to who we are at Trailmix. We definitely are AI evangelists in trying to find use cases for productivity. But when it comes to the human heart, which I think our narrative is, it is our center, it's really important for us that comes from a very heartfelt and human place, and then we can power that at scale with AI. Did you want to speak to any of that? Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I think we don't have too much long left, but one more maybe?
Yeah.
Sir?
A lot of modern phones are really powerful. Are you doing anything special for people with like more modern handsets, or is it more like thinking, okay, someone with a 10-year-old handset should still be able to play on this game, or do you have to try to sort of like have a range of features for different kind of handsets? Maybe you could have like a more powerful one, or fold phone, or how do you?
The question was about, new devices and sort of the...
How powerful new devices are affecting your game development process, broadly.
Do you want to speak to that, Charmie, from the new game side?
It's a really interesting question, because I think we spend most of our time talking about the opposite, is how we make sure our games run smoothly on really, really old devices, because I think the market is more global than ever. A lot of our success, even at Supercell, like Brawl Stars, for example, a lot of the success comes from Asia and Southeast Asia. And they're now looking more seriously at Brazil, for example. So that's always the focus. And the nice thing about that is the game stays very, very performant, which is, again, according to my Gen Z's research, they're very, very sensitive to performance, like the game feel of how it loads, how lack of patience is the common denominator here. But, and so because of that, a lot of our conversations are there, actually. I think it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think that is because I think mobile free-to-play in particular is about reach and the global reach. So min-spec is always at the forefront.
Yeah, just to add my own personal take, am I still on?
Oh, no, do you
I think
have
I'm
one?
still on. One of the most popular series of stories on the site in the last year has been the sort of consistent failure of these AAA games coming to mobile. Players on mobile just want to play mobile games, I think. You know, why would you want to play Assassin's Creed Mirage on a phone when you can play it on your PlayStation? It's the form and function, I think, is very important in mobile, and like you guys say, addressing a wide audience as possible is often the most important thing in mobile. I think I don't want to seem like I've got the final word because I'm the least important person on this panel.
No, it's
But
all good.
I think that's it. Thank you very much. Can we have a
Thank
round of applause for
you.
Charmie and Felicity, please? Thank you.